Hello everyone, my name is Joe Davolio.
And my name is Justin Goldstein.
And we are Way, a new way to pay for experiences. Today we're going to talk about checks. Checks are bad. Checks are bad for three main reasons. First, they waste time. Second, they waste money. And third, they waste paper. And that leads us into our problem: the check delivery, splitting, and payment processes. This affects three main groups, the first of which is people going out to eat together, like everyone in this room could. There's often a disconnect between the time at which people want to leave a restaurant and the time at which they actually can. That's because this process requires flagging down a waiter, getting their attention, them coming to the table, going to the point of sale system to print your check, them coming back with the check, everyone deliberating over who owes what and solidifying payment methodologies, flagging down the waiter yet again, the waiter coming back, going to the point of sale system to process the payment, them coming back to the table yet again, you leave your tip, and finally then you're free to go. That's a significant drag on everyone's time that can often take upwards of 15 to 20 minutes. But us disillusioned consumers aren't the only people hurt by this. Servers are as well. Servers, they serve food and drinks and customer experience, and their ability to do so is hindered by the check delivery, splitting, and payment processes, which, as mentioned, take a significant amount of time. They also hurt restaurants, the places these servers work. They hurt restaurants by limiting their revenues, their opportunity for revenues rather, and increasing their expenses. On the opportunity for revenue limitation piece, the 15 to 20 minutes that's spent throughout these processes are 15 to 20 minutes that otherwise could be spent turning tables. And on the expenses piece, everyone around the table charging credit cards, and these credit card transactions often cost between 2.5% to 3.5%, often plus an extra 30 cents per swipe. Ultimately, every step of this process costs every player involved time and money.
And so that leads us into the solution. Way is a hospitality technology platform that enables users to pay restaurants directly from their mobile device for exactly what they ordered. It allows them to bypass the check delivery process, simplify the check splitting process, and entirely eliminate the check pickup process. In doing so, it saves both customers and restaurants time. Without having to sit around and check and parse through to determine who owes what, consumers and the groups that they're dining with are ultimately able to save time. And if they're saving time, then restaurants are saving time as well. It enables both parties to save money. As Joe mentioned, some of these transactions fees can be so hefty on the part of the business, and they're able to save them if multiple transactions aren't being conducted around the table. And if you're a consumer and you no longer have to split items down the middle to overpay for your fair share, then you're also saving money in the process. And lastly, but certainly not least, Way helps save paper for the environment. Every year, approximately 12.4 million trees are cut down in the process of producing paper for restaurants in the form of checks and receipts. It was a number that Joe and I were fascinated with, and we're happy that Way can do something about it. So let's talk about the product and the way it works, and specifically how Way has these solutions take place, as I just mentioned. The process is user-initiated. Users will begin the check process by scanning a QR code that's placed and embedded in tables at partnered restaurants. What this does is it calls information from the restaurant's point of sale system to deliver the menu items via digital integration into the phone. Users from their phone can then view all the items that were ordered around the table and seamlessly choose exactly what was theirs. So no more pain in selecting exactly what was yours for your fair share. From there, all that's left to do is pay the restaurant. Users, once they confirm that they have the right items, can confirm their payment and send it directly to the restaurant at a lesser transaction fee than what restaurants typically incur from traditional credit card processors. So let's talk about market validation. Over the last few months, Joe and I have spent countless hours learning about this problem, both on the consumer front and on the restaurant front. In 2018, $62 billion were transacted over the Venmo platform. Of the top 10 emojis used to describe these transactions, 6 of them were of or relating to food, thereby indicating the necessity for a platform that makes it easy to split payments when it comes to dining. And in addition, Joe and I have conducted over 150 customer interviews in the form of either potential users of this platform and potential restaurants that are excited and willing to partner with Way once the technology is ready.
So now let's talk a little bit about our business model and how Way generates revenue. Way will monetize both its financial infrastructure and software as a service. First, on the financial infrastructure point, Way facilitates payments from users to restaurants, charging a facilitation fee, if you will, in the process. This fee is going to be less than the fee charged by credit card processing companies. Second, on software as a service. To tap into the merchant benefits that Way allows for, Way will be charging a monthly subscription under subscription model. These merchant benefits include increased table turnover, enhanced operational efficiency at restaurants, and improved customer experiences. When Justin and I took a deep dive into the competitive landscape in the payment space, we quickly learned that the space is plagued with friction. It seemed that the ability to split payments and the ability to bypass the check delivery process were mutually exclusive, and that's because they are. The splitting apps like Venmo, like Cash App, don't actually bypass the check delivery process. They're simple peer-to-peer transactions. The companies that do bypass the check delivery process, of them, 2 of them are Chinese companies, and therefore would be legally prohibited from operating in the United States due to regulatory restrictions. And the other is a marketing platform. Way brings the best of both worlds by coupling the ability to split transactions and bypassing the check delivery and pickup process. And here's a glimpse at our timeline and where we've come from, what we're doing today, and the way forward. We started in June, as Justin mentioned, and engaged in months of customer discovery, came back to campus and hit the ground running. We were lucky to be accepted into the Cornell Entrepreneurship Legal Clinic, soon after incorporated as a Delaware C Corp. Have been building out our engineering team since, and currently have 6 engineers, 2 designers on the team, and are excited to announce that we'll be releasing our minimum viable product this Thursday. Soon after, we'll be beta testing, integrating with point-of-sale systems, and partnering with restaurants and restaurant groups.
Once again, my name is Justin. A little bit about me. I'm a junior in the hotel school. After my freshman year, I interned at a financial technology startup specializing in payments, where I learned about financial architecture and credit card processing with respect to independent sale organizations. And last summer, I interned at Kushner Companies in real estate private equity and real estate development with a specific focus on consumer experiences in hotels.
And again, my name is Joe. After my sophomore summer, I was a White House intern, where I worked for the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Coordination and gained an understanding of the financial regulatory landscape. That prompted further interest in finance, and I worked at Goldman Sachs this past summer. And in the Apex group, I was fortunate enough to be a part of a team that sourced bespoke private deal flow from the investment banking and merchant banking division, where I gained a comprehensive understanding of what drives financial technology companies that I'm excited to apply to Way. Once again, we are Way. Thank you for your time, and we welcome any questions that you might have.
Do you guys have any beta partners yet that have expressed an interest to sign up?
Yeah, there are actually some great interest within the college town market, as well as some of the downtown areas within Ithaca. We felt that would be a really strategic focus to actually keep the product at home here. Another one that we're considering and in talks with respect to administrators that can make it happen is establishment here at the hotel school to actually roll it out where the Cornell students dine every single night.
Why do you guys think that you can replace the financial infrastructure processing piece at a lower cost than what exists today?
Credit card processing companies have to pay for APIs and go through infrastructure that ultimately inflates the price because it benefits them. What we're able to do is bank-to-bank transfers that mitigate those costs, and we're able to charge much lower fees because of that.
Do you think you could do that at scale?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What makes you think that you can do that at scale, really, is my question.
Because of the bank partners we've spoken to.
So Square came out with a much lower processing fee. I think initially it was 2.5, and they have since bumped that up. So what are you targeting as your processing fee? Because that would be a huge impact to the restaurateurs.
Absolutely. And it's going to be on a case-by-case basis, dependent on the volume processed by the restaurant, but lower than the credit card processing companies.
What were you looking to charge each restaurant from a subscription standpoint?
Again, it's going to depend on the restaurant and on volume of payments transacted.
It seemed like the increased abilities were all kind of things that were more assumptions as opposed to hardcore, I guess, perks that your data could possibly allow. I would think about looking at a strong points in what you could be providing the restaurant, which would justify a subscription fee, as opposed to just making your money off of the transaction fees.
One last question. And you said something really interesting in one of the slides, the research slides. It was the market slide. It was like roughly $65 billion of payments that were processed in 2018, of which 60% had food or drink emoji associated with it. So are you making the supposition that there's roughly $35 billion of checks that get split just on the Venmo platform alone across restaurants, just in the US alone?
Well, we actually are operating under the presupposition that there's more than that, because Venmo actually operates as a reimbursement model. So if you paid for my check, I would just reimburse you. But there are other parties at that table that don't use Venmo as that payment option and use a traditional credit card or a traditional method of cash or something. So there's actually a much larger market than what Venmo is currently transacting.
All right, Team Way, thank you.